The origins of the Second World War are many, and there is no overall consensus as to what exactly they were. It had originally been assumed that Adolf Hitler was entirely responsible and that it had been his plan all along. But deeper research indicates that it's likely more complex than this, although of course Hitler lies at the core. In this brief explanation, we will look at some of the origins of the Second World War that have a general consensus and then quickly look at some possibly contrarian views. At the end of World War I, the major powers signed the Treaty of Versailles, which was devastating for Germany, who were deemed entirely responsible for the war. They were stripped of land, forced to pay unrealistic reparations, and prohibited from having a large army. This created resentment amongst the population, which was used by Adolf Hitler and the Nazis in their propaganda and rise to power. From the Treaty of Versailles, the League of Nations was formed in 1919 as a guarantor to world peace. Every country would be a member, and instead of armed conflict, they could use the League as a platform to negotiate. However, many countries didn't join, and there was never an army to enforce the League's missions and outlook. Italy's invasion of Abyssinia and Japan's invasion of Manchuria showed how toothless the League of Nations was, and it soon lost credibility. In the late 1920s, there was a global economic depression. In Germany, trade was reduced, unemployment soared, businesses closed, banks failed, prices fell, and the economy shrank. The people looked to a strong leader to guide them out of this desperate situation, which is where the opportunistic Hitler came in. German and Japanese militarism were also a major cause. Hitler had immediately begun building up Germany's forces upon taking power, which was known by the British and French, but they assumed he could act as a blockade to communist Russia. Germany's occupation of the Rhineland, Austria, and Czechoslovakia still didn't mobilize the British and French, even after alliances had been made with Italy and Japan. In Japan, the military had gained power on the back of the economic depression, and in order to find natural resources to power their factories, they invaded Manchuria in China. They expanded their territory in Asia and ignored the protestations from the League of Nations. It is worth mentioning some more contrarian views of the origins of World War II. The famous historian A.J.P. Taylor argues that Hitler possessed strategic goals, but no thought-out grand scheme as to how and when these goals would be achieved. Indeed, Hitler was an opportunist, taking advantage of events provided by the French and British governments, rather than working according to a timetable, as demonstrated by the unsuccessful policy of appeasement and the signing of the Munich Agreement in September 1938. It has also been an argument that the German people were largely carried along by Hitler's desire for war and domination, but it can be strongly argued that in destroying the Treaty of Versailles and invading Poland, Hitler actually had the overwhelming support of the German people. Germany invaded Poland on the 17th of September 1939, and World War II began. It would last for a further 6 years and cause the deaths of roughly 75 million people. It is vital for us to read, watch, and study sources about the origins of devastating wars such as this, so we try and learn from the mistakes of the past, ensure that we don't make the same mistakes again in the future. World War II was the largest stain on the history of human civilization, but World War III could very well see the end of it. Thank you for watching this 4-minute history on the origins of World War II, and please look in the description below for books and movies you should check out for a more detailed and nuanced look at this period of history. If you found that interesting, you may also be interested in other 4-minute histories based on a wide array of periods throughout world history. And finally, please don't forget to subscribe.